Well, Belinda, thank you for being on the podcast episode today. I'm really
Sure.
excited to talk with you.
Awesome. Yeah, my pleasure to be here today.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
So, Belinda, why don't you just go ahead and give the listeners a short introduction about yourself. What's your name? Where are you from? What do you do?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Balinda Kizombo, and from originally Democratic Republic of Congo. Grew up half of my youth time in Congo, half in Uganda, as a refugee from Congo. And then 8 years ago, I moved up here in Spokane, Washington.
8 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've been in Spokane for 8 years.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And what do you do?
Here in Spokane, I work with World Relief as a case manager, and also in Spokane, I went to school, and also I'm doing my police academy.
Police Academy.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's super awesome. We need more great cops in this city, I think.
Absolutely, that would be my pleasure. Being one of the refugees that moved up here, and working my way up there and give back to this community.
Yeah.
There's nothing else I could do better than that.
That's really cool. And really cool that you have such a desire to give back to this community.
Absolutely.
Especially in such a great capacity as being a police officer. I mean, that's a lot to ask from you.
Yeah, and that's what I felt when I was doing when I was in school. I kind of asked myself, like, what kind of stuff can I do? Just in form of giving back to this community, because this community has offered so much in my life and in my family's lives as well.
That's really cool of you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I want to get into that a little bit and unpack that. But first, I want to hear about what it was like growing up in the DRC.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
So in DRC, I was born and raised in DRC up until when I was 8 or 9, before the civil war and everything, started. So I didn't quite have, long time growing up in my own country. So my parents, because of the civil war and, politically, being disabled, we were forced to leave the country and be refugees in the neighboring country, which is known as Uganda.
Okay.
So we spent a quite good time in Uganda, about 9 to 10 years as refugees before we moved in, resettled in United States.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have more memories as a kid in the DRC or in Uganda?
I would say a little bit, because I haven't get a chance to go back to Congo, which I'm planning to really do, to go back, visit where I was born, see how much it has changed. But there's also some other things that is still going on there, like war.
Okay.
I can't risk it to go there, but if it gets stable, definitely that's one of my programs to go there. But I do, like I told you, I've been in Uganda for about 10 years.
Okay.
So I know Uganda more than Congo, because I grew up over there. I've seen a refugee life, how it looks like. We've seen the differences, how you get treated different from your own country to being a refugee before getting resettled in the United States. So much of my youth time, I've spent it in Uganda, as a refugee. Yeah.
Okay. So you went over to Uganda when you were 9, you said?
Yes.
Okay. What year was that when the Civil War broke out in the DRC?
So when there's two civil wars that broke out. One was right when I was born, when there's that transition, of presidents and stuff, which was back in 1994. Then in 1995, when I was born, the war was still going on, but not to the extent where that people had to be displaced.
Okay.
And then the civil war again broke up in 2003. We went in Uganda. We spent there like 2 years. Went back in Congo. Then another war broke up in 2006. So we moved in 2006. End of 2006, I would say 2007. Moved in Uganda and stayed there up until 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was born in 1995 too.
Yeah, great. Awesome.
Yeah, man. It was a good year.
Yeah, well, I would say it was good here because that's where we were born, So
Yeah.
yeah.
So being in the DRC from 1995 until you left when you were 9, what was it like? So you were born into war, basically, right?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because my parents were in the middle of like shifting here and there. We were not stable, like, growing in a certain place, like say like growing in Spokane, born and just grow like in Spokane. So we were moving all the time, around Congo and this and that. Oh, there's a war in Spokane, I'd say, for example, and then we go to like Idaho, then okay, what's done in Spokane, we come back. So we were moving a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And what caused the war? Do you mind sharing?
Yes, absolutely. So the war, as our geography and the mineral resources, basically.
Okay.
So the power between tribes. So if somebody like a president is from this certain tribe, this tribe won't be happy, so they'll cause that war. And also like the mineral resources, the leaders want to grab on mineral resources, which they tend to fight and use arms to gain it. So that what caused the war, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And it was a civil war.
It was a civil war.
So it was a war within the country.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. So when I guess did that affect you going to school? Did that affect friends and family that you interacted with? Talk about that period between being born and being 9 years old, because that's a very just moldable period of a child's life.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So as you know, like the war in the Congo, when the war starts, everything is like disrupted.
Yeah.
In a way that parents can't send kids to school, people don't open their shops, people don't go to the market, and the system over there is open market, where like when you start hearing guns and this and that, nothing is open pretty much. So with all those years that we're talking about, the civil war is going on, pretty much no school, no job. You're basically living with what you got.
Yeah.
And that's what forces people to leave the place, because what happens is when the war starts in this area, basically they're trying to create war in that area so people can be displaced, so they can do the mining, they can,
So they're trying to displace people.
They're trying to displace people because they know, this city is sitting on the mineral resources.
Wow.
So in order to remove them, because people don't want to like leave their houses, leave their properties, they have farms and all of that. So in creation of war, people will be forced to leave. So that's how it is. Like, we didn't get a chance in the childhood time when it's going on. When we're still in Congo, there's no school as well. And when we crossed the border to the neighboring country, which is Uganda, the system is different as well. Coming from a French system, going to the English system, that also kind of disrupt with your education system.
Okay. So DRC was French system,
yes,
Uganda's English system. Okay.
Yes. So, but as kids, we get to pick up those languages pretty quick than our parents do. So coming back to your question is that, it disrupted a lot with our education, and we didn't get a chance, to get the better education we could get as kids growing up.
Yeah, for sure. So did you get to attend school at all in the DRC, or was it always disrupted while you were there?
It was on and off. So I couldn't remember that, having school straight 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was on and off. You go and, there's no way you can go, and you just stay home. And parents will do their best, to try to educate you from home, but it is not as good as going to school.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'm trying to get a glimpse into just being, 5, 6, 7-year-old you in the middle of war. So bring me back to that time, like waking up in the morning. Maybe you have school, maybe you don't. What's going through your mind? Do you have fun memories in those years, or are they mostly uncertain memories of war and not sure if you're going to go to school? Or bring me back to that a little bit.
To be honest, growing up in all this kind of stuff, growing up hearing, guns or this and that, or there is a tribe that hates this tribe, and they're trying to, slaughter this tribe because, this tribe is in power. As a kid, really, I reached a point where I'm not focusing, from school, but I'm focusing like to get a peaceful place where, we can live without all these worries. And growing up as a kid during that age, I stopped thinking about school because of what is going on, changing the system all the time. That just disrupted our thinking of saying, oh, is this war going to end, or is this a long-term thing? And there's this hope that our parents have. It was like, okay, we're going to move to Uganda for 2 years. After 2 years, hopefully the war will be done. We'll come back, you guys will continue school. So those kind of stuff. But they all kept on going. The war now has been going on for 22 years.
Still going on.
Still going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's still all about mining and minerals?
It's all about minerals. It's all about people overstaying in power. And because of the mineral resources, the war tends to go on and on and on because they keep on displacing people. And this war has been one of the longest war in Africa, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, just in Congo. Yeah.
That's crazy. So, yeah, clearly your parents were hopeful that it was going to end, but it's still going on.
Still going on.
And so as a kid, you were having to worry about things that you shouldn't have had to be worrying about.
Yep, absolutely.
So do you feel a little bit robbed of your childhood?
Definitely. From growing up without getting the best childhood I could get, nobody wants to leave their home country.
Right.
Nobody wants to be refugees in a different country, which it has disrupted my childhood a lot because I had to adapt in every city that we go in, get to learn, because that's the only option we had at the time. And I think that also affected, my parents because they, watching us growing the way we're growing, that's not what they expected. So it did absolutely disrupted our childhood.
And how many kids are in your family?
So we are 8. Some of them are in Illinois. So I stayed here when I was still in college. And yeah, I love Spokane.
Awesome.
I visit them, once a year or something like that. But yeah, I love Spokane.
Yeah. And are your parents around?
My parents are back home.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents are back home.
You're back in the DRC?
No, they're in the Uganda.
Oh, Uganda.
Yeah.
Okay. So Uganda, would you maybe consider Uganda home?
Uganda is definitely home.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Uganda more than Congo because that's when, I grew up and I basically, adapted it as home because I know it more than Congo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you guys went to Uganda, I know that during a lot of wars, a lot of refugees kind of have to escape because the government doesn't want them to leave. They want to hold them there. But it sounds to me like they were trying to push people out. So was it pretty easy to go over to Uganda because the DRC wanted you out, or how was that?
Yeah, so Uganda, they receive refugees not only from Congo, they receive refugees from Somalia, they receive refugees from Zambia, from all over Africa actually. And it's when war breaks in, people look for the neighboring country where there is peace. And Uganda had been stable since 1985, so they've been very, very stable. But the Congo, and if you see, Uganda is stable since 1985 because they have no mineral resources.
Oh, okay.
So there's nothing going on there basically.
Interesting.
Their only economy they have is farming and export and imports. But because of the Congo that is sitting on oil, gold, diamond, all these kind of resources, and people politically they want to grab on that, and that what causes war, because there is over 200 tribes in Congo.
Okay.
And each of those tribes want to be in power, and that's what is causing all these wars and stuff. And it's really, really hard to control.
Yeah. So the war isn't between this side and that side; it's between 200 different tribes.
So no, the tribes that there is right now, well, there's over 200 tribes and over 200 languages.
Wow.
I'd say, and then there is the majorities that they, the more they are, like right now, the sitting president is, I think it's from Lubumbashi, all those types. You would be more familiar if you know its geography, but now they're the ones sitting in power. And if you see now that most of people coming from his tribe are the ones sitting in all the high offices, basically. So that's how it is. There is, I would say that democracy is not the best, even though it's called Democratic Republic of Congo. And really people are driven with over corruption. It's just, they don't care about how people are dying or this and that. All they care is getting whatever they want, which is very, very sad, which displaced millions of people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was your life ever in danger when you were living over there in the DRC?
I'll say definitely, because like when I was born in the middle of the war, when that war back in 1994, 95, Congo was not stable at all, was going through that transition. And then growing up, in 2003, we were forced, because there were the massive killing of two tribes, which is Hima tribe and they're called Walendu tribe. So that was the massive killing between those two, especially in the east. So we were forced to leave during that time, because the Walendu was killing a lot of Himas, and we're Himas.
Okay.
So we were forced to leave.
Yeah.
Wow. Kind of like genocide from the Rwanda between two tribes, Hutu and Tutsi. So that was kind of thing that was going on. Wow. During my time growing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really heavy, and that's hard to, just as a child, having to worry about that.
Yeah. Especially, I was worried, but again, at the end of the day, I was thinking how much my parents were worried.
So you were concerned about your parents.
About about us at the time on the kids. So that was even more tragic thing, to happen to my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you think that season impacted your family long term? Are you guys still close? Are you guys, talk about that a little bit?
Communication between us and our parents.
I guess just your relationship more so.
Yes. We do, all of us in our family, we do have a very good relationship with our parents. We, as a matter of fact, when I became a U.S. citizen, I've traveled back home twice, and there was so much that has changed. And seeing, because of spending a lot of time away from my parents and going back and seeing them, it's just kind of like, there's that happiness, seeing where we came from and seeing where the kids are right now, and taking all this responsibility. It has just given us a certain type of, even though our parents didn't have the opportunity, to provide the best for us during all this war, it is not their fault at the end of the day. They've tried their best, they've relocated us, and some of us, we've moved in the United States, and we're making our lives, and we're supporting them. It's just a joyful thing to see where we came from and where we're at right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Praise God. Are there any moments that you can recall back when you lived in the DRC that would maybe just kind of help, like, give me and the listeners an idea and a glimpse into what that was like constantly having to be worried about war as a kid? Is there any moment that you can remember?
Yeah. So when people are displaced from their home countries and go to the neighboring country, they don't go and provide them with housing and all of that. So growing up, going to Uganda and like seeing people, millions of people living their homes, their beautiful homes, their their whatever you can call it, that it's valuable to them, and leaving all of that behind, and go to a neighboring country and be with the status of refugees and being in a refugee camp. That is just, it's a tragic moment for these people, like losing everything and going in a camp and having, literally no good clean water.
Wow.
No, getting food that, that's the only choice you have. They give you food like one meal a day. Seeing millions of kids being in camp and losing all they had, and growing in camp, because some families that have been in camp for 20 years, pretty much they've grown their whole life in the camp.
Wow.
Some kids in the camp, they were born in the camp and spent another 10, 15 years in the camp,
Yeah.
So those are kind of like tragic moments. And then when they get resettled in Canada, in the United States, that's like starting all over, giving them new hope. It's God answering their prayers. And that's why when these people, we as refugees, when we get here in America or in Canada or whatever else that they've given this opportunity, they don't take it for granted. They work hard because they know they've been in a tragedy and they've lost literally everything, and they're starting all over. That's why they give back to this country. They work hard and they make it in life again. So it's not a fun journey, especially a lot of people, when they come here, some of them have, PTSD, trauma because of what they've been through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I mean, that's insanely traumatic.
Yeah.
And so when you arrived at the refugee camp in Uganda, you got out of the DRC. Talk to me about what was going through your head. Did you feel safe? Were you still worried? Were you excited to get to Uganda?
Well, in the first place, my first time crossing border with my parents, and we got to Uganda, the first worry was like, how is our lives going to be? We're in the neighboring country. There's no really jobs for our parents to support us. But thank God, after living, in Uganda, and my parents, started working, relocated, and it's not the best life, I could say, but we thank God for what happened at the time. Again, not really, being in that situation at that moment, it's like all is in your mind is, when is the war gonna end so we can go back to our country?
Yeah.
Leaving everything behind and seeing the way we're being treated as a newcomer in a brand new country where you're not familiar with stuff. In the beginning is a big challenge. So that challenge as a kid, I wouldn't compare it with the challenge that my parents went through. Because it was even more challenge, on their part.
Yeah.
To provide for their whole family at a time.
Yeah. So your parents are in Uganda right now. Do they have hopes to go back to the DRC?
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, my parents always talk about like, it's because we are from the East, and if the East is safe, I'm sure my parents will want to go back.
Okay.
Yeah, they do love Uganda with, for the amount of years that they've been there, and they do love it, but home is always the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, that's really cool that they still want to go back, and I hope that they can.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's been going on for that long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So was it a long journey to the refugee camp in Uganda?
No. So with people who go to refugee camp, Uganda and Congo is pretty close. You can travel there, back and forth for one day. So in the east part, the camps are really close from the east part. So when you move from the Congo as a refugee, you go straight to the camp. They welcome you and they, give you their status as a refugee status. But just the life in the camp is horrible. And one of my dreams is always, to go back, when I go back in Uganda, is to visit those camps and just like, hear from people and see how, we can, try to help and give back at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But
that's really cool.
Yeah, but the lives in the refugee camp is horrible, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about that then. What was it like being a kid in the refugee camp in Uganda?
So, in the refugee camp, especially like there's no basic necessities. There's no basic necessities. There's no clean water. There's no, good food. What you get is what you have.
Yeah.
And it's just traumatic, and there's no hope because more people are still coming in the camp. That means, the war's still going on. More people, as a matter of fact, like the last 2 years, the numbers in the camp, I was just looking it up, has doubled.
Wow.
So they're trying to send other refugees from other neighboring countries because Uganda cannot, take more.
They can't support that.
Yeah. So they will try to send people in Tanzanian camp, Kenya, stuff like that, because the number is just growing. Yeah.
So I mean, I can't imagine it was comfortable living there. What was the living situation like in the camp?
Well, people over there like don't have the access to work. That's why when people live there for so long, they decide to move to the city, so they can look for a job to make their lives a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because back in the camp is only you're depending on what the United Nations is providing to you, which is not even meeting the standards because they cannot, serve everybody to meet their standards. The only standards they have is you have at least a safer place where your life is not in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you go hungry often, or did they provide enough food?
Over there, like they don't provide they say 3 meals in a day. No, we can provide 1 or 2, something like that. But if you need something different, you gotta go look it on your own.
Yeah. And you don't have access to work, so can't imagine you'll have much money to go out to the market.
Absolutely.
And get food.
So that's why people move from the camp when they've lived there for so long to the city, so they can make their life a little bit better.
Yeah, but you guys stayed in the camp, right?
No, we moved.
You moved to the city?
Yeah.
Okay, you moved to the city. So how long were you in the camp, and how long were you in the city?
So in the camp we did like 2 years and a half, and then we moved to the city.
Okay.
Because my dad also had working with these trucks and whatever, so was able to provide. Okay. So we moved in the city.
Okay.
And over there at the city, that's where we were doing the process, because the resettlement agency also have their location in the city.
Okay.
Same as in the camp, so we moved in the city.
So you were still working to get resettled.
Yes.
In a different country.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And was the goal always to come to the States?
Well, you don't know that until you do the interviews and get accepted to go to the United States. So when you get there, when you're in Uganda as a refugee, you apply, for resettlement, but any country actually can pick your case. So Canada can pick your case, Australia, or the United States.
So you don't know where you're going?
You don't know. Until they send you a letter and say that the United States has accepted to resettle you. Then you got to do another interview with CIA to approve your case, doing the vetting system, all those things. Wow. It's not at the same time. It takes years to get through. So there's a lot of interviews.
Yeah. And so you were 9 when you came to Uganda. How many years did you stay there?
I stayed there for about another 8 years. Okay. 9. Yeah.
Now, did you end up going to school in Uganda then too?
Yes, I was going to school. I did my primary school in Uganda, half of my secondary school, and then when our process was done, we relocated to the United States. Resettled.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was obviously safer in Uganda for you. So do you feel like you were able to have a bit of like good adolescent years there in Uganda, since you kind of maybe felt robbed of your childhood in DRC? Were you able to, just have fun?
Yeah. In Uganda, I felt more safe than back home.
Okay.
Just because of the stability they have over there. But again, the fact that you can be there for years and years and years, but if you have that status of refugees, they don't even accept you, to like that. The law here in the United States says if you reside in the United States for 5 years, you can decide whether to be a citizen or not.
Okay.
So those kind of like privileges not there.
Oh.
You could be there for 20 years, you're still a refugee.
Okay.
And
does that affect you getting jobs and things like that?
It definitely does. Like when they know, oh, you're from this country, they will privilege more for like, even you guys have the same degree, but they'll rather have their own first, before even considering you. So those are kind of like disadvantages that, it comes with being in a neighboring country as a refugee.
And do you feel like that affected friendships too?
Yeah. In what way?
Like, I mean, just with having a refugee status in Uganda and going to school with kids that maybe grew up in Uganda, did they treat you differently, or were people pretty welcoming there?
Yeah. In school, I didn't have any bad experience. Especially in my primary school, because growing up there, and when you adapt, their language, there's not, at least for me, I didn't have any bad experience, like, treating me differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Yeah. And so now compare that with coming over to the United States. When you got here, how did that feel?
Well, when I got here, my dream is always like, oh yeah, if I get resettled. And when I heard that we're being resettled in the United States, that was just like a dream come true,
Okay.
We got here, just the welcoming was way different. And the way people welcomed us here and getting connected to volunteers that welcomed us here, we just felt that we're even more safer, whereby, equal opportunities being provided, and we just felt that we're in a new environment, which is more safer than where we, came from. And also the opportunities, really, it's up to you to chase your dream, and it's up to you to do whatever you want to do. So that was just totally, a game change.
Yeah.
Whereby I'm like, wow. So, the idea of America is to really make anybody thrive, to really make anybody make it in life. It doesn't matter, like, how long you've tried, because, like, spending most of my years growing up, I didn't have the opportunity.
Okay.
To do exactly what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And when I got here, I'm like, you know what? I still have a chance that I can turn my life around and get whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, well, God's timing is the best. And sometimes I ask myself, is like, God, I wish if I came in this country like when I was 9, I don't know, like I would totally change my life. The way I see kids, sometimes when I talk to kids, I'm like, you're playing with your life because, you've been born like this. Everything has been, brought to you, and you still want to like play with your life around. I wish like if you travel the world and see. So that would be a lesson, a lifetime lesson. And coming here, 18, 19, years old, I just had that hope again. I was like, I can still do it. And my parents believed in me that I can still do it.
Yeah.
And I just thank God for what, I am today and what I'm trying to do and giving back to this community.
That's amazing. And that's amazing that you hung on to that hope despite years and years of so much uncertainty and not even sure if you'd have opportunity to chase your dreams.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as a kid, was it always your dream to go to the police academy?
As a kid growing up, actually, I've always think of, I've grew up just with a mind of justice, seeing people the way they're being treated and not getting justice and all of that, just built on my, urge to learn more about justice.
Yeah.
Seeing all the corrupt things that has happened before, and my dream is whenever I'll grow, whenever I'll spend most of my life, I just want to focus on that because I
Wow.
have a huge background of how it looks like and how it feels, not getting justice. And then at the end of the day, my family and I didn't deserve to leave everything back, and be and go through what we've gone through. you know is it fair? Well, I don't know. That's what nature brings. But, there are a lot of people who, feel like they need somebody to speak on their behalf and be there for them and stand for them. And that's just give me, the passion of doing, being in law enforcement and giving justice where it needs to be given.
Yeah. That's amazing and super humble of you